Good morning. So we're going to look at some of our claims that we've had, some case studies and some interesting statistics, and then also highlight the role, the very important role that you are playing to make sure that all your clients, old, young, not so healthy, are covered for these life-changing events. So if we look at our payment history, I'm not going to go through all the figures in detail, but the biggest numbers, 1.8 billion paid in life cover during the last year, severe illness, 766 million, capital disability, almost 700 million. As you can see, really big numbers. So if we look at life cover, what drives the mortality stats in our book? The first thing that we have to look at is that our cancer claims for mortality, cancer leading to death, can strike at any time, even in young people, that's so sad. So we see that in the younger ages, it's more the leukemias and lymphomas. Older ages, colorectal and other cancers, but it can strike any time. So that's why it's so good that when you have a client with a young grown-up child, that you make sure that they are covered from the beginning, from a young age. Heart and artery, obviously as we grow older, our risk factors compound and the risk of dying of a heart attack or a stroke increases. And then another important factor that's very clear there is that in the young ages, unnatural deaths are more common. Older ages, the lifestyle diseases, cancers, strokes, heart attacks, and so on. Younger ages, far more unnatural deaths. And we are addressing that through the Vitality Drive to make sure that our young people are driving safer, that they make use of Uber and other ways of transport and not drive around at night when there are other people that shouldn't be on the road. So our oldest male claimant, 87, female claimant, 82, both dying of strokes. It has been said that if nothing else kills you, stroke will eventually, and we see that in our stats. Youngest male, 24, died of lupus. Now that's very unusual because lupus is an autoimmune disease and it's less common in males, and 24 is very young, but it does happen. Just shows you how unpredictable life is. Youngest female, 25, died in a car accident. Very tragic. 30% of our life cover claimants have had an event prior to death, either a severe illness or a capital disability or something like that. Some policies are in the books only for 7 days and there's a claim, or up to 15 years and the average being about 8 years. So female causes of death, we can see that in females cancer is the highest incidence and it's most probably due to breast cancer. Unfortunately, a small but a substantial number of cancer claims, breast cancer claims, are genetically linked. And they strike at a young age and they're very aggressive. Even if you pick them up early, they're unfortunately very resistant to treatment and aggressive. And I think that is driving that very high cancer figure there. Heart and artery in females, less than in males. But after menopause, we lose that advantage where the incidence is lower. So in older females, heart and artery claims catch up with their male counterparts. And of course then the unnatural deaths in the male population, sadly, driving cars more often than females, risky behaviors or hazardous hobbies, that sort of thing, driving up the unnatural causes in males. Interestingly enough, that the mortality rate, meaning that women dying of the cancer, is actually slowing down. And the reason could be because the treatment is getting better with genetic testing of tumors and of the patients themselves to see if they're carriers of cancer-related genes, will have a better outcome. It does not mean that the incidence is lower. In fact, it might be higher because you're picking up more cancers at an earlier stage. But people won't be dying of these cancers. They will go into remission. And that is why our new cancer benefit in our new severe illness is so important. Because if you go into remission, there is a chance that there will be a relapse. And I'll touch on that a little bit later. But so far, the mortality figures are definitely coming down. Unnatural deaths, it's always very tragic if somebody dies unexpectedly, no matter what age. But as we've said, it's a higher incidence in our young population. 36% in car accidents, and suicide in a close second, which is actually an indictment of medical care, screening and treating that so many people still commit suicide. It should be a treatable disease, the depression, and one should be able to actually prevent these suicides, which are always very tragic. Crime far too high at 20%, aircraft and other accidents, and then 3% other. There was actually one claim of somebody that was killed by an elephant, so that's why the elephant is in that little icon. Interestingly enough, the Discovery Life motor vehicle accident life cover claimants, none of them were on Discovery Insure. So it shows that the vitality drive is working. If we look at medical access cover, there's an interesting case study where this person had life cover, no severe illness or other benefits, but he just had the life cover, and he was diagnosed with a very severe lung disease, chronic obstructive lung disease, and he qualified for access cover, and he could access 100% of his life cover, and that was paid out as 8.8 million rand. And he would not have had that money to either get better treatment or to pay for extra unexpected medical costs. If we look at capital disability, we still have the four categories, where category A accounts for most of our capital disability claims at 48%. The category B, slightly less at 16%, and then our unique feature of Cat Cs, where we pay you a temporary disability cover while you are getting better or establishing permanence of the condition. And then our occupational underpin at 22%. Just also very important, we always think that disability happens in the later phases of your life, which is not true. Even if it's smaller, it can happen at a very young age. Very often, car accidents leaving people as a paraplegic or a quadriplegic, where they have to live with that disability for the rest of their life. And that happens in the young ages, and that's probably the unnatural causes or the accidents happening between 21 and 30. Also older ages. Over the age of 60, a smaller portion, but just illustrating the point that disability can also strike at any age. We have other unique features, like the 1.7 billion converted to severe illness that's currently in force. And of that 1.7 million, we've paid 18 million in claims. There's free spouse cover through the benefit booster, and then the average lifetime capital disability benefit payment was boosted by 21% during 2017. Just another case study where somebody had a leg amputation after a car accident, and his payout was boosted to 160% because he had the lifetime option on his capital disability. Severe illness, I think everybody should have severe illness at the very least. Young, old, it's not related to income. You can actually use that in your financial planning to make sure that when a severe illness, life-changing event happens, at what age and at what severity, that at least the person does not have to worry about the financial impact and can just get on with rehabilitation or getting better. Again, look at the stats. The 4% of 0 to 21 is mostly our auto child benefit. And as you can appreciate, if a child gets a severe illness, mostly cancers, kiddies get the blood cancers, the leukemias, lymphomas, or brain tumors. Devastating for parents, but at least there is some financial relief. And then going through the ages, peaking between 50 and 60. Once again, can strike at any time. Even your young, healthy people that think they are invincible between the ages of 21 and 30, they can have a severe illness that they will need financial help with. If we look at the severity levels, it is so important to have comprehensive cover for all the severity levels, even the less severe categories, severity level E, F, and G. It makes out a substantial number of our claims. And although the payouts are not 100%, it does provide some kind of financial backing when you have something like that. Severe illness, as we have alluded, breast cancer, female cancers, in females up to almost 50% of severe illness, a lesser proportion of heart and artery, and as I've mentioned, that is because in the premenopausal phase, the incidence is really lower in females. Nervous system, because females have more nervous system strokes in the later ages. Connective tissue disease, that's what I've mentioned also right in the beginning. It's unusual for a man to have lupus. Females have a higher incidence of rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and all the other autoimmune disease where the body actually manufactures antibodies against their own tissues. It's just the way it is. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. If we look at the male population, heart and artery, because across the ages, even early on, they have a high incidence of heart and artery. Cancer is still a substantial proportion. Older ages, prostate cancer, very important in the younger ages, that the testicular cancer, and with all the implications of that. So our lifetime severe illness is the best in the market, but it's actually the best in the world, because nobody else pays for relapses of cancer the way we do. We definitely have the widest spectrum, where we have the early cancer payments, a smaller percentage, but it compensates for the fact that there has been a cancer scare, and you will have to go for follow-ups, you will have to monitor, you might have to have ongoing tests. We have also the unique cancer relapse benefit that if somebody has been in remission for a year and the cancer comes back, that we will pay up to 100% for that recurrent cancer, regardless of the second staging. And we will pay the first cancer plus 2 relapses, which takes it up to 365% for cancer benefits. Definitely the most comprehensive multiple claims facility in the market. We have the global treatment benefit, and as I've mentioned, the in situ or very early cancers where the cancer has not actually invaded the tissue, growing into the underlying tissue. There are 17 of them, and I must say we are unique in the market that we even pay for malignant melanoma in situ, where many other companies exclude that on the early cancer benefit. And to us, that was just very important because malignant melanoma is one of the most dangerous cancers, the most aggressive cancers that you can have. And you will certainly have to go for mole mapping and regular follow-ups and to prevent and to get to diagnose a malignant melanoma at a very early stage. So we have included it, and I think that is actually unique in the market. Female cancers, breast, ovarian, cervix cancer, make out the bulk of the cancer claims for females. Then older ages, all the others, the respiratory and the strokes, and as we've mentioned. And then just also important to see that the blood cancers called hematological cancers, leukemias and lymphomas, in both males and females, early cancers, young ages, where they'll have to have chemo, they'll have to have follow-up, they can have long-term complications. Older men, prostate cancer; younger men, testicular cancer; and of course the hematological cancers, as we have mentioned. We have, if we look at our multiple claimants, if we look at the group where they've claimed before, 1 in 5 of those claimants would be in their second claim already. And if we look at those, the bigger group, that they would, in that group, there would be people claiming for the 3rd time and the 4th time. And we have one client that has actually claimed for the 10th time, 10th episode in 2017. We're going to show you the case study. We definitely have the best multiple claims features in the market for related or for unrelated claims, where we will definitely pay for lower, the same, or higher severity, where most of the other companies will pay only for a higher severity or limited to a selected amount. So depending on your minimum life fund, your minimum protected fund, you can continue to claim as many times as there are life-changing events. Very important to see that about 44% of our subsequent claims are for lower or the same severity level. And that means that many other companies would not have paid for up to 44% of those claims. Very often the competitors say, yes, if it's in a different body system, then they'll pay again, multiple claims. But if we look at the stats, 72% of second claims, subsequent claims, are actually in the same body system. And that is why it's so important to have a minimum protected fund and to make sure that your clients can claim for subsequent events. So this is our case study. Took out the policy in 2002, and just a year later he needed a coronary artery bypass graft, bypass for short, and he qualified for a severity B claim because they had to bypass 3 coronary arteries. Unfortunately, he had to redo those bypasses in 2010. They clogged up again, and they could bypass 2 of them, but they could not bypass the others for technical reasons, and that is why the rest played out. So they had to keep on putting stents in to try and keep the circulation going. And as you can see, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, almost yearly basis, he needed a stent to try and keep the circulation to his heart muscle going. So he received over R1 million across the 10 related claims. And we just need to appreciate that many other companies would have paid the first claim and no further claims, because all the other claims were of lower severity than the first claim. So that is an important feature. We also have, specifically in heart and artery, we have the rule, if something happens outside the 30-day window, we will treat it like a new life-changing event. And that is definitely unique in the world. Nobody else has this kind of unique multiple claims for specifically the heart and artery system. We've paid 11 million through the automatic child severe illness and parent care benefits. It's something that's there included in the severe illness. People don't even have to apply for it. There's no underwriting except pre-existing conditions are excluded. And people would not normally think of insuring their parents or automatically insuring their children, but when there's a life-changing event, that money is always welcome. If we look at the lifetime severe illness benefit, the actual payouts were 2.14 times more. And that is much more than what the lifetime severe illness cost in premiums. So that's really, really very good value for your severe illness premium. If we look at ICB, or income protector, continuous income protector, we must also appreciate that a fair proportion of income protection or ICB claims are permanent, which you would not expect it. I always see ICB as sick leave for self-employed people. And you would not actually expect sick leave to be whole of life, to be permanent. And up to, 25% on average of our claims on ICB become permanent claims. And if we look at the value, because it's ongoing and it's long periods, our permanent claims are like 2/3 of our payments compared to, 2/3 of the total of ICB claims. And that's a very unique feature, the upgrades and the ongoing and the permanency of this. Okay, so if we look at disability, where we look at the various body systems, heart and artery, as we can expect, more in males because of the age distribution. I must say, with heart and artery, your incidence is much higher on the severe illness rather than on the disability because of the very good interventions that people can quickly have a stent. They can have a bypass. Heart attacks are treated very early, and that improves the outcome. The hearts are not damaged, the muscle is still working. So that's why the disability on heart and artery is so much lower than the severe illness. Nervous system, male, female, 10% and 6%. Not too much of a difference, but a big difference in musculoskeletal. Maybe trauma, maybe degenerative diseases, male and females, male far more on the musculoskeletal. Various infections, higher in females. And then the mental and behavior conditions like depression, anxieties, those kind of things, higher in females. Maybe it's because cowboys don't cry, they don't admit to these mental disorders, and sadly that's why the suicide rate is higher in males than in females. We have touched on our global education protector. We on the core program that we pay for public schools, on the private schools on the upgrade, and on the dollar plan that you can actually have your child in an international school. Very important. People are very mobile. They can work overseas, and then at least the school fees are being taken care of, and as we've seen in Gareth's part of the presentation, that the university can be funded through healthy living of the parents. We have 35,000 lives covered at the moment, and already 1,500 are in claim. And looking into the future, it's projected that 1.5 billion rand will be allocated for tertiary education through the university funder benefit. Discovery is in the unique and fortunate position that we have a strong health company, and that when there is a claim on the health company, that we can proactively handle a claim on the life side. Now, two factors are very important here, that we are the only company that can do this, and sometimes people are not even aware that it is a claimable event under severe illness. Yes, if somebody gets cancer or heart attack or a stroke, most people would know that they could claim. But the lesser severe events, people are not always aware that that is actually covered. So it is a welcome surprise when we can contact the broker and say, your client has had an event and it is covered under severe illness, and please submit a claim. The other thing is, of course, that we have such a wide spectrum that many other companies would not even cover the lower severity claim events that we do. So that is obviously a big advantage. Then one example of a severe illness proactive claim is where this person was diagnosed with a retinal detachment, and before he was aware, or even his broker was aware, we could actually alert them that we do cover retinal attachments and that a claim will be paid. As you can see on the left-hand side, it's spread across all the body systems, cancers, heart attacks, and we get many eye claims because people are not that aware that a retinal detachment or some of the other eye claims are actually covered under severe illness. Okay, so we're very proud of our track record with the Ombudsman. We do not repudiate claims easily. Most often, if there is a repudiation, it is because the policy terms or conditions are not met. Pre-existing conditions sometimes excluded, and that makes up only 4%. Non-disclosure, only 5%, and we make sure there's a whole process of making sure that when we say this is material non-disclosure, that we're being reasonable, and that it would be reasonable to expect somebody that they've had a condition that they should have declared. So we do not make those decisions lightly. There are review committees and more review committees and further referrals and consultation with legal and medical department and claims and underwriting and so on. So that is why the non-disclosure is also a very low percentage, and then other reasons, maybe premiums not paid, policy not enforced, those kind of things, 16%. But we only decline 3% of all our claims. So 97% of our claims are being paid out as we have promised when the client has taken out the policy. Total percentage of Ombudsman's complaints from Discovery Life, very low, and we do take them very seriously, and we learn from them all the time, and we try and minimize them and make sure that we do the right thing.